Surely here with Jupiter, point of Dallas. Jupiter, our Saturn day. Jupiter is in the 12th house, with the moon in the second house in Leo, and the midheaven 9 degrees Aries. Venus is 22 in Steel. I want to address something that is, while it's very, 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 very personal, it also affects my work and what I do, and is affected by that. And um, and has a deep connection to what I do. Okay, so I'm gonna begin with how I woke up. I had this weird dream, and in that dream I was holding a sandwich and going to a room. Sandwich I made for myself, and in that room there was a person that was used to be my bestie for a decade, and he was like, "You have no idea how many girls grew in this bed," and there was no bed around him, but whatever, and I was just looking at him, and he said, "Didn't you bring someone or something nice or something like he was looking to pimp or something?" And I was just like holding that sandwich, not really knowing how I ended up there, bringing a sandwich to myself, and kind of like, "Dude, what's up?" So I woke up with that, and that person, when you separate from people, they're in your 12th house. And I have Pluto going through my 12th house, so it's kind of like going through the back of the mind. Um, and I just woke up with that eureka. It's kind of like, well, I'll be like, hey, and I recall that person, when he was very young, he wanted to be like a sheikh or something. Not a sheikh that like a sheikh, shah. I don't know what is the Islamic thingy. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so funny. But also they originated from Ukraine, and this is kind of like Eastern Europe. And this is places where sometimes, the whole seduction culture is both the Arabic tribes and the seduction culture of trying to plant thoughts in them. It's also intelligence, which is horror. I actually met Bedouin girls that hated that. You speak with really. I speak. You speak with. I got to speak with a Muslim man once or twice. You speak with a Muslim man. You speak with a man. Usually have a conversation. Where are you? Where am I? What do you want in your life? And so on. Um, and even if they're intelligence or they have to have a mist of mystery around them, they would sneak out the, kind of like the truth and then mix it or something like that. So like, but they're really keen on letting you know where they stand. Okay. Um, when you speak with a Muslim person, it's like they're letting you know where they stand. They don't give a place for you to have a stand. And so, and it's like that's not an equal footing relationship. And for me, if I think about that with my ex bestie, it was not a romantic relationship. It was like we can be friends, and we were friends for a decade. And it was also way younger than me, so I wasn't thinking about him in relationship terms. But it's like for a man, I need a man. And indeed, as I was growing to nurture my moon, my needs, my psychology, my inner child, um, I was not growing up by anybody else. I was growing up by me, and and for a romantic relationship, I would need a man. Okay, and not a man who's looking for to make me come to him, and all those seduction techniques that really make everybody somewhere between impotent and dreadfully unsatisfied. Like when a woman is actually working on her own needs and so on, if she pays attention to things. Let's say you see a person and say, yeah, I'm open to, like, I'm open to being introduced, and they're like sit back flexing. Like, for me as a woman, I see that and I say like, hey, that person doesn't want to be in a relationship, but he woo ways on the social engineers, and which is almost kind of like my next topic. And then when I turned to political assassination prevention through running into an article about the assassination of Peter R. de Vries. If we think about it relationally, Peter, and I'm not going to address the dark things because I address them all the time, and those are the things that need to go out of the system for anybody to have any type of relationship that is a good relationship, friendship or not, monogamous or not, gay or not. And I've been saying that to my bestie. We talked about, like, bisexual or whatnot. I was like, listen, it doesn't matter. If even with the gay man, you will not be happy if the relationship is not happy and healthy and thriving. Doesn't work on all that, you know. Um, it's not even seduction. The mind control techniques doesn't work about it. It doesn't. It's when you think about our genitals as so related to our identity, and orgasms is so related to our psyche, and a genuine orgasm and a relationship we're actually happy, and our relations and our needs being met, and being met not as control tactics but happy relationship. Why I did not go to intelligence, because I got 001 all up in my mailbox. I did not go to intelligence because that type of techniques, what they teach there, is not compatible with good sex, that is heartfelt, with happy relationship, with satisfaction in life, with growing where I'm growing and doing what I'm doing. And yeah, I tend to security. I wasn't going to tend to security. Now I tend to security. Tomorrow I might be tending to something else. And so for me, that was not suffice. That if I think about my dream life, okay, they look different. And so, but the first person I was running to was Peter. So now, putting all the dark things aside, Peter was an example of a person who was completely non-monogamous, not polygamous, non-monogamous man, boy and lady, living in a happy, thriving relationship, being parents. The children are around my age, they grew up fine, um, and, and not having all these hurdles. Both people can see other people. It's like, oh, that's one model. Maybe it's good for me, maybe it's not. I don't know, but it's like, hey, that's non-monogamy. Um, and that was not that shake type of whatever. Um, and he was pro rights for the Moroccans. But then comes the other example, which is the person that wanted to deport everything. And again, I just turned to political assassination prevention, and a person wanted to deport everything that had to do with that culture, which basically I don't like, you know. And when I speak about relationally, I'm not looking for a sheik. I'm not looking for a person who's like, yeah, you want to be polygamous. Like, there are countries where you could do that. Chavech. And, and as much as it sits uncomfortable, that type of mentality where a person doesn't even listen to what the woman has to say, or lets her have her own voice, is not it's not a mentality that a woman is enjoying to live with. To be very honest, you don't have to go to deport them, but to be very honest, it's not a mentality that one enjoys. And it's not about the Islam. Christianity has its horrors. It's about the mentality, the day to day. Because people can say, I'm a Hindu, or I am this, or I am that. At the end of the day, you care about who you live with, and is that a good life? Now, the only thing that pisses me off is the social engineering around the paparazzi around that. It's like you can't say a word about the government without having paparazzi in your, like, this is annoying. Um, and then there was this juxtaposition, and the juxtaposition went like this. I discovered there was another person they were trying to kidnap. So shout out to the white sneakers. And so I think people don't appreciate. First of all, I learned that those leather shoes are very likely not comfortable. As a person who appreciates the health of my feet, that's very endearing. But the thing is that Mark Rutte has his Rahu to my Sun and Venus, and that was putting a terminal end. That even Hitler did not finish the job, but when it comes to people that want to hold me at arm length, that Rahu to my Sun finished the job. It's not about romance. It's not about any of that. The social engineers went so much so. Also before I was introduced to chart of wielders, they were. I'm not blaming neither of these people. Okay, not Ruth and Wilders, the social engineers. They were literally putting me to torture before around encountering these charts. And I'm just an astrologer. I open the chart. It's nothing. I never met these people. Okay, I'm just opening a chart and I get through a series of torture before I even open the chart. Psychological torture, I don't know what. So, because they want to create whatever scenario that they want to create, like whatever. But to think about how an antidote of somebody having Rahu to your Sun, it's kind of like, I'm going to be who I am. I am an astrologer. I am a this, I am a that. And to my Venus, which is where the desire to just relax into, and so those things were completely terminated altogether, completely terminating all those type of practices and people that either wanted to keep me at arm length, or they wanted me to be one of their, which is kind of like, hey, you can be non-monogamous, that means I would be with other people too. And so um when it comes to and people that didn't want me to grow, they literally tortured me. There was can you imagine what it's like? You try to move away from looking at the picture or looking at the video or at an interview of some person, and if you even try to move away, you're being tortured so that only that even the other social engineers will see you only looking there. But that person has Rao to my son. So so not only I was growing to be me, but growing to be me exponentially, so much so that anybody that wanted to keep me at arm length would have to deal with who I am. Okay? And so and again, this is absolutely not going against, it's not the talents to do that, it's the social engineer, and very likely they go through hell as well. So this also how I learned about this entire social engineering scheme. And again, sometimes they do good things. It's not about they only do bad things, but when they are doing those things, like, um, but what happened, I said it's going to be personal. Um, but what happened is, very simply put, in a society, taking it back to the entire picture, in a society was growing on betrayal cults, on trying to do mind control, on all these things, in such society that limits people being who they are, what will happen is that people will want to unravel themselves and their life trajectory and grow exponentially and so on. First of all, it's like nature that corrects itself. Okay, um, it's just the natural way of being. And I'm Israeli. I did not. I took French, which, by the way, yesterday I discovered France is actually quite supportive. Moon Nakshatra for me. Um, I took French and not Arabic to not go to the intelligence. Was a tip I got at high school, and eventually I was not recruited to the army. I'm not going to elaborate on that. Army service is mandatory in Israel. Those type of intelligence and the way that they do intelligence, the way it rains on the psyche, the way it rains on the sexual energy, the way it's done is antithetical to national and international security. And then I find myself like enthralled with NAVO that has a route to my Mercury, particularly when the guy that has route to my Sun became the head of NATO. And so it's kind of like it works in a juxtaposition where people try to recruit you, try to recruit you. Eventually, it goes like completely other way that they expected, and there I grow like exponentially. And it's not like I'm not working with NATO or anything like that. It's just like juxtapositions of charts and tending to the topics and tending to my 22 Mars and so on, which is in the ninth house. Okay, something international. 22. Okay, something to do with military security and so and all those things. Um, but it's also, if you think about it, I'm just going to tell the humble story of a woman because I'm also a woman, okay? And um, and from my perspective, you see, I could be, for me, it was like, hey, I could be friends with people. It's like, hey, you want to have like a sheik or something like that, whatever. It's like if we are good friends, then, and indeed, I had 10 years of friendship. It was like I grew a lot in that connection. Um, Very supportive of each other and so on. But then for a romantic relationship, I'm gonna need a man. I'm gonna need a man who's going to support me growing exponentially. And if you think about Sol Rahu, is kind of like it's megalithic growth. It's not growth. It's megalithic growth. Um, it's not gonna have a problem with me going through that megalithic growth. So I was like, hey, you're trying to be a king. Oh, nice. So for a kingdom, you would need that. You would need that. Oh, that's really nice. But I can see how for that point and that point, and this is because this is Sun. Sun is the kingdom. And again, I'm a very democratic person, I'm a very sovereign person that supports other people's sovereignty. But this is kind of like the Sun growth is both Sun and Rahu is kind of megalithic growth. So how completely antidotal it is to those that try to hold you at arm's length. Like eventually, so and then it was like when being with that man who is, or when society doesn't allow a man to be, um, and don't allow women to be there for. Thank you. Yes. Then what you have is those situationships. And of course, I'm not going to be with someone who has a problem with me growing exponentially into the fullness of who I am. And kind of like even the sky is not the limit. Of course, I'm going to be with the man who's actually there, and not as a compensating mechanism, like he's there and I'm there. And of course, I'm going to be with the man who likes me, who's supportive of my growth, who likes me, is not trying to keep me at arm's length. If like so, that. So for those of you who watch Mr. Bean, it was just when he was in bed trying to turn off the TV, and there was this long hand that he used to it. Like the guy want to hold me at arm, like he's gonna have to have that. Like the hand has to be like all that long. But the thing is that oh shit. No, I knew it. End of summit. End of summit. So just to finish up on that, it's like I'll be with whoever lets me be. Now, speaking about Iran.